Hey everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Spin from the Real. And once again, I am Matt, and joining me is the personality, Chris Anthony Lopez.
Yeah,
How you
I
doing,
love that you
Chris?
put that in intros, my man. I'm doing well. Full disclaimer, this pre-record is 100% my fault. I'm getting some dental work done, and actually, as this episode goes live, I will probably be crying in my bed, pillow on my face, and but I can't wait to. We'll be back live the following week, of course. But
Yes.
this one time, it's on me. I'm sorry. I just, priorities. I gotta get my teeth fixed.
Yeah.
But next week I'll make my debut on Spin for the Real with
With
my wires.
possibly. There could be some things that change, but that we'll talk about that
Yeah, but
in a
we'll
different.
yeah, that's a whole different
Hold on.
announcement. It has nothing to do with the channel. So, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Well, no, it's this is gonna be a shorter episode. Not a lot that we can really talk about, except the weekend that was corruption. My God,
What a corrupt weekend! My God.
it's how corruption has just risen in the rankings thanks to the tournaments, or just thanks to the tournaments, because it's all because of Laura Kelly, Mike Kalinowski, and Chance Ellison. Without them, corruption isn't in the place they are now, which is third place. These fuckers are in third place.
And before we really start talking about Laura Kelly, Chance Ellison, and Mike Kalinowski, I really want to give so much credit to Shannon, right? Shannon is an incredible manager. You can see there's a line. There's a line where you can distinguish a good manager from an all right manager. And Shannon, to me, she didn't start off the hottest when she first joined the league because
Mhm.
it was still Mike's faction.
It was
At least
Mike's
that's what it felt
faction,
like.
and she made a name for herself quick by breaking up the Wildberries.
And as far as bummed as I was watching that, oh my god, it's still probably the most heelish thing the Schmoedown's seen all year, if not in the last few seasons, because the reaction that it spawned from someone who's relatively still new to the league. She'd only been there for a few months. People had only seen her face every so often, but that one move made the difference. And
Mhm.
my God, it set the standard for not only managers but heel personas going forward.
She
New
she
heel personas
she
going
is
forward.
the heel of the year without a doubt. Like, she has maintained her heel status, whether it's been a match or just Schmoedown backstage. Like, she is always on it on time. Like, she may give Andrew Guy a run for greatest heel of all time, and she's not even a full season in. It's crazy.
And when we look back, like in a year, 2 years, like I don't want to hear any Shannon slander. I still don't. Now in July, I do not want to hear any slander about her because even when you watch the corruption matches, she genuinely gives great advice to the
Yes.
players. It's not even just her healing it up. No, no, no. She's like with Laura Kelly, with Chance, and like
Yeah.
you see that she's picked up the game this quick to
Mhm.
actually give solid advice and still keep up the character, like just to break kayfabe,
Yeah.
because that's just break kayfabe for a second. It's hard to do,
Hmm.
and like it's never easy trying to like, because I guarantee Shannon's a really nice person. I bet she's
Yeah.
fantastic, but my God, like putting on this persona and going to help out Laura Kelly, and Shannon, like they've had like the camaraderie between the two of them is one of the better
Manager
things to come out of
relationship.
this season,
Yeah.
whether it's through the whole coronavirus stuff that's been going on the last few months. It's one of the better things to come out of it because I want to see more of it going
Yeah.
forward. And I just think that without Shannon, corruption isn't what it is now. And for them starting super slow for the first half of the season, they slingshot
Yeah.
themselves up, right up the faction ranks, and that's due to her and the performances of Kelly, Ellison, and Kalinowski. And
Yeah.
the tournaments aren't even done yet.
No, you kind of tackled what I wanted to bring up. Like, even we in our first two episodes started to wonder if she's a bit over her head, but the tournaments have shown she's not over her head. Did she have rough performances from Bonnie Somerville early on? Yes. Did she have a rough performance? Was it Marisol Marquis who played earlier this year for her? I know it was a rookie. Yes, but it was more so the competitors than it was her.
And even if that's the case, like if she's still lacking with competitor performances, that's definitely changed since the beginning of the year.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Like it's even if like Laura Kelly, like she's obviously no stranger to the Schmoedown, but she's still relatively new.
Yeah. And I am on my phone, but I'm looking up Schmoedown stuff.
No, you're fine. So what Shannon's been doing with Korruption is incredible. So shout out to Shannon. Like you're doing a kick-ass job.
Oh, it was Clee Wiggins. Clee Wiggins was the one she had earlier.
Okay. So shout out to Shannon doing a kick-ass job. But my God, without great performers, your faction is not going to do anything. Yeah. And Mike and Chance absolutely brought it this past weekend. Oh my God.
And this is what we talked about. Why Kalinowski being in the singles tournament is a good idea for the time being. We'll see how it plays out though, because she even talked about it on SCN. It was a hard choice because they had an easy shot at points for a title right there. She just got to play Ben and beat him, and then play whoever has the title. But they decided Shannon and Mike felt it was more important to get the faction points. And her and Roka went at it a little bit in this week's episode of Backstage, because Roka's like, yeah, you're making it sound like the points are more important than titles. And realistically, these points don't exist without the titles. And he had a point. But ultimately, they care about putting the faction first, which you got to respect to a certain degree. But I love to hate Korruption. They're that faction who I love and I hate at the same time, because I love watching them. I'm not going to lie. I loved Mike Kalinowski as the underdog face. I loved that character.
Yeah, and it was great.
Yeah, it's been hard for me to get behind him as the heel ever since. I can't deny he's a great heel. Not the greatest of all time. That is Andrew Guy. But to think that his life partner is possibly a better heel than him is just crazy.
And I hate to split them up, because I think they're going to be synonymous with each other for their entire runs in the Schmoedown. Because obviously the Mike, I think the Mike heel turn is it's on the Schmoedown Clips channel.
Yeah.
It recently came up when he turned on DC Movie News, and I rewatched it, and I relived the shock.
Yeah,
because it was it's hard for me to find a good wrestling comparison for it, but it's the jolly old baby face that you love to root for, that you wanted to succeed so bad, and he succumbs to the darkness, and he turns heel on a then super green Roxy and Adam Gertler and Johnny LaQuasto.
Mm-hmm.
I was so bummed to see it at the time, but in retrospect, I'm like, oh my God, this slingshotted Mike to where he is now.
Yeah,
one of the better heels, and some may say he's the best heel, and I totally see why. But one of the better heels that's put on scene now and in its history, and it reflects so much on the Shannon, and what he did with Chance when they were paired for Korruption and the Anarchy tournament. I
do gotta say though, Chance is one of the weaker characters for me. Like
when he started, to me, he was like that.
See, I still don't like I can't get behind his character. He's not a believable character to me. He seems like a lot how I see him in our family, where I'm just like, yeah, I'm here, I'm doing. He says some rotten stuff here and there, but it's not like I never feel like he's a bad guy. You know what I mean?
Sure, and I think I felt that way about a lot of the fans coming in from the fan leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt the same way about Paul Oyama when he first started, even though he was nothing but. I felt the same way.
Paul's the one I felt like was an actual heel without trying to be a heel.
But that was the closest that we got
to
someone out of the fan leagues, or someone brand new to this coming in and really trying to make it their own. Because Chance came in, tried to be Red Hot Babyface, didn't like that. Him turning heel is the best thing to happen to him. I'm so glad he stuck with that. But Mike, I think Mike's a big reason for why Chance is what Chance is now.
Yeah.
Because whether it's them doing tags, but the same thing spread off into Chance doing singles and Inner Geekdom, I'm a big fan of that. I felt the same way about Paul. I feel the same way about Robert Parker. And we'll get to Robert Parker in
You're
a
forgetting
second.
Smets, man. Smets probably is the best one to come.
Smets came out like a dog, as he should have. And I mean, I kind of felt the same. I'm not gonna lie. I was because I'm bitter because I'm a fan too, and these people were getting the opportunities to interact with the personalities I've been watching for years.
Yeah.
But then when Kevin Smets, on God, for me the turning point was John Kaiser. I'm like, this right here is what I wanted. This is the Paul Heyman to Brock Lesnar that I've been looking for. And they've definitely backed it up. Regardless of what you think of the dungeon and what the dungeon is doing right now, you cannot deny that John Kaiser is a great manager. But Smets was definitely the best of the bunch, in my opinion. At least fans coming in and taking on a persona and performing to the best of their ability. And Smets is still whooping ass. But Chance started like that. He wasn't the best, probably the weakest of the bunch. But he really started when he turned heel with Mike in Korruption. I'm like, yes, please. Or once he really embraced the heel persona, yes, please. And to this day, he's still rocking it. And after his performance against who I thought the Schmoedown put as the chosen one.
Oh yeah, I remember because you hadn't watched the match yet, and you're like, I'm like, oh, I know who won. You're like, just tell me. And I told you, I'm like, yeah, Robert Parker. He's like, I guess he isn't all he's made out to be, huh?
I remember when, because he was Robert Parker's first match against Ace.
I think so.
Fact check that for me if you can. But I want to say it was against Ace. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go. It's the chosen one. And for all my wrestling marks out there, for all my wrestling fans out there, it was like when Drew McIntyre was the chosen one for Vince McMahon. That's what it felt like to me. No diss to anyone behind it. That's just the vibe that I got. And I'm like, who is this Robert? Plus, he was drafted pretty high in the
round pick.
Second round. This fan is complete unknown to me because I wasn't too educated on the fan leagues at the time. And I'm like, okay.
We're still working on that. It's an issue even I have.
And I'm like, who is this dude? Who is Robert Parker? And then Chance Ellison. Spoiler alert for the matches this past weekend. We're gonna get into them now.
Yeah.
He did well. He did good. Robert Parker did.
Yeah. But Chance was perfect. He literally was perfect.
That's what and we talked about it last week on this show. That Inner Geekdom's none to play with. You cannot joke around at Inner Geekdom. Chance did not play around. He brought the heat. Robert Parker also brought the heat. It just wasn't hot enough. Because my man's out here missing Back to the Future questions and pissing off Brad Gilmore wherever the hell he's at.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that match proved two things to me. That A, I still somehow, some way was underestimating Chance Ellison. And that's my fault. So I'm sorry, Chance. And B, Robert Parker, you came out of the gates hot. All the hype was on you, but you still have a chance to redeem yourself. But he's not.
Yeah, wait till next season though. He's literally gonna have to wait possibly 6 to 8 months.
You got to get in the lab, Robert. You got to get in the lab. Watch all your Back to the Futures. Watch all those Inner Geekdom movies that may or may not that don't sound like Inner Geekdom, but they are. They're not the typical comic book movie.
At least he was Brandon Anna challenging the Green Hornet being in Inner Geekdom.
And yeah, like, come on. The Green Hornet, totally Inner Geekdom. What the hell? But like, where else would it go? But and I love the Green Hornet. But the Robert Parker Chance Ellison match proved to me like it wasn't Robert Parker's time. He's still so green. It's ridiculously green. He's a kick-ass competitor, and he has the potential to really whoop ass later, to be a Smets, to be a Chandru, to be a Kalinowski later, or now an Ellison later. But let's take the time off, get in the lab, watch Indiana Jones, watch Back to the Future, all those unconventional mixed bag movies, and come back and whoop ass. Yeah. And I want to be wrong. I want to shut up, and I want to apologize on this show. But that's what I saw after watching that match.
Yeah. Now, the other corruption match we had this weekend was Eric Z-Man Zipper versus Mike Kalinowski, where Z-Man held his own. You got to give it up to Zipper. Like, he held his own. I know he didn't. I know he missed his 5-pointer, but like, he was there. He provided what he needed to provide. He's right now the co-face of the dungeon. Like, he's who the dungeon has to rely on, whether it's for the singles tournament or what he did in this tournament. He's who the dungeon needs. So he held his own, but Mike, of course, being Mike, comes out on top. Like, I'm never, unless it's singles, I'm never gonna underestimate Kalinowski. If it's teams, if it's Inner Geekdom, I got to go with Kalinowski. His singles record is a little bit spotty, and it just takes a call not to go his way or a bad question for him to show us how frustrated he is a little bit. Let's be honest.
And I mean, after the last year and a half or last 2 years that Mike's had, you can tell that his strengths are obviously teams and Inner Geekdom.
Mm-hmm. As much as he wants to try to push singles, like, he tries to push singles, and I respect him for that. But
I can't wait to see his performance in the singles tournament. Like, we broke that down last week. We don't have him going too far, at least amongst us.
I was about to say, if I remember correctly, we have him losing to. We talked about him losing to Riley, possibly.
Yeah, losing Riley's second round, which, I mean, and we said that he was in the hardest part of the bracket, at least to begin with. Some of the other parts of the bracket get harder the further you go. Yeah. But to begin with, just looking at it face value with how many people are in it, that bottom right is the worst. Mike, in regards to singles, he's going to have the toughest time to get there. But in regards to Inner Geekdom and what he was doing, I'm so stoked to see the possibility of corruption v. corruption, especially two people that are in a team together before the team tournament starts. Like, this could be huge. Like, oh my God, imagine post singles tournament, post teams tournament, corruption could be on top going into spectacular.
That would fucking kill me.
It would be nuts, and it's totally possible. After watching what
I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's feasible though.
Oh, that teams tournament, maybe not singles, but teams.
Yeah, that teams tournament that could be the. But at the same time, we don't even know what that bracket's going to be at, and I wouldn't bet against Shazam. I wouldn't bet against Shazam, and we know they're going to be there.
And the second Christian decides to, whenever he drops that team's tourney, we'll do the same gimmick on here. We'll break down the tournament, and I can't wait to do that because it's going to be a riot. But my God, it's totally possible to see corruption top the faction leaderboards going towards last quarter of the year or the last few months of the season, and we might see corruption just get more opportunities with possible freaking Inner Geekdom matches, possible teams matches, and singles. And although we didn't give Ellison and Kalinowski the biggest rub when we were doing the tournament last week, we still gave Chance the benefit of the doubt more so than Kalinowski.
Yep.
And those points are going to matter. Granted, we had the Finstock Exchange winning a lot of those matches.
Yes.
We had Roka winning the damn tournament.
But that's just because of how Roka is as a player.
And things can easily change, but
yes.
In our fictional fantasy land, corruption gets do a kick-ass job. They really can. And depending on how this freaking Inner Geekdom goes, ooh boy.
See, you brought up the teams tournament, and just a moment ago, I know I said, I don't think they'll all go. We don't know how that'll go. At the same time, excuse me. Once you think about it, they're going to be one of the only teams who aren't going to be rusty. Yeah. They're going to have this tournament under their belt. They're going to, I mean, granted, the teams tournament happens after, so as of right now, it's looking like it's happening after, excuse me, Taco Bell's kicking my ass.
You go crazy.
team tournament's going to happen after the singles tournament.
Yeah.
So, granted, players might not be as rusty as they seem, but Chance and Mike are still going to be ahead of the game compared to some other competitors, so that might end up working in their favor.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because they've been busy. Corruption's been busy as hell, and not only like everyone's obviously represented in the tournaments, but I'm telling you, after these performances and what they're doing, I'm totally expecting to see Chance over the Barbarian, even though that match is going to kick ass. Again, we just saw Chance spawn a perfect game. Like I believe in the second round, he got all his questions right and went to multiple choice 1.
Yep.
So and then Mike beating Zipper, like Mike's second round, he got DC.
Yeah.
Like an obvious strength of his, and if we see more wheel spins like that, more performances like this over incredible competitors. Like I said, Robert Parker was the shit coming out of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you thought he was drafted too early or he was drafted by the wrong faction, they made him seem like he was the guy, and he proved himself against Ace. My man went nuts, and then he proved himself against Goddard.
Yeah,
and I ate crow about all the things I said about Robert Parker. I was giving him so much flack.
And I don't want to say this in a way to diss Goddard because Goddard's a great competitor, but as soon as he came up against a real multiple season proven talent, look what happened.
And we've sung the praises of Ben Goddard last week on Spin from the Reel. And we just said like Ben, like he kicks ass of singles in teams. He's almost like the inverse of Kalinowski, to swap in singles and inner geekdom. Because and maybe that's a little too soon of who I think
he is a rookie. He as of right now, he's probably my rookie of the year because Parker's out now. Parker's done.
Yep. And Ben, I totally expect to see the Pride in the teams tournament. I would love to see how they do. They can give Corruption a run for their money if they play their cards. And I think that like we saw Parker and Goddard. Parker came out on top. I mean, easily proved himself, but again against a veteran, it's safe to say like Chance Ellison's a veteran at this point, and we saw his performance. Did really well, but not good enough by Inner Geekdom standards.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing on Mike's side of the bracket. Eric Zipper had a breath of fresh air getting drafted by the dungeon. Because ever since he split from Winston with World's Finest, it was like Zipper was just floating.
Well, remember, he did get picked up by the dungeon. He was Paul Yama's partner last year. He was just picked up again. So he got to stay where he was comfortable.
And I always looked at Eric Zipper like he's just floating around waiting for that bolt of energy. Because the World's Finest came in hot.
Yes.
When him and Winston were doing tags, I'm like, yo, like this is awesome. Like I love seeing these two guys together. Seeing the heel turns. I love a good heel turn in the Schmoedown. I'm like, this rocks. Getting picked up again by the dungeon. I'm like, this rules. And then watching what he's become now, I want to see more Eric Zipper. Unfortunately, we won't see that.
Right now, he's probably a mid to high B tier player.
Totally, 100%. Like, and that's no diss because I think he's doing significantly better now than he was doing a year ago.
He was literally when World's Finest came in, he was probably high C tier, and he's worked his way up to the point where he's getting close to that bottom A tier.
Can we just take a second to acknowledge how freaking incredible both members of who were formerly known as World's Finest have been doing this year?
Yes.
My God. Eric Zipper.
Z-Man is carrying the dungeon right now. Like, he is helping carry the dungeon along with Robert Parker because we haven't been able to see Smets. And then Winston just killing it as a manager.
Like, if it's not Shannon for Manager of the Year, it's Winston. Winston arguably is the front runner.
Winston is the man. Like, personally, I'm still going to go Gucci. But Winston, if I'm not going with Gucci.
Good reason. It's a three-man race.
To me, it's a two-man because unless Corruption continues this rise up that they've been having, it's still a two-man race.
Okay. See, and I think they're going to continue. That's why I'm saying like Shannon's going to keep whooping ass. We will see more of Shannon.
Oh yeah,
100%. And I think it's Winston, Tom, and Shannon, at least for Manager of the Year.
I think with Winston, Winston. Between him and Shannon probably has the better chance because his talent has just been proven across the board. It's not just been
after Ace's performance in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Like he had Final Exam who are about to play Deep 13. Paul is a singles player. Like, he's doing well across the board as a manager in every division, basically.
And what Winston's doing, and he's doing like, we hyped up Shannon how great and how awesome she is at not only being a great coach, but bringing out the inner character within the competitor. Winston's been doing that tenfold with swag as well.
Yeah. And I'm pulling up the matches right now. Let's see. We had so far Winston has had RB3 versus Goddard. RB3 lost. Then he had that's when he had Final Exam versus The Experiment. And then he had Chandru. See, he's even got Chandru. He's got he literally has someone in every division who's right there contending. That's why he, outside of Dagnino to me, has the best manager of the year criteria. Like Shannon,
I can't blame you, dude.
Yeah, and then to me, Shannon has 3 players. That's everybody else. Like Winston has probably, you could argue, like 5 or 6.
Like I said before, I'll say it again. The same criteria same hype I was giving Shannon a second ago. It's tenfold over with swag, and how I'm looking at this is that obviously things could change. Alex Damon can beat Mike Kalinowski, even though I don't think that's going to happen, and the Barbarian can. Well, I'm not saying Alex is going to do bad. I'm just saying that Mike's going to come out on top regardless. And the Barbarian can beat Chance, and bang, we're no more Corruption Inner Geekdom. Bang, we got to worry about Inner Geekdom for Corruption no more. And they can fall flat in teams and singles. So the Corruption could easily just shit the bed for the rest of the year.
See,
but personally, I can't count out Shannon for manager of the year, especially for including her, or at least giving her heel of the year now in July. I can't not count her out.
That's for actions that she's done, and like
as a manager for Corruption.
Yeah, but you can't say that. Part of the reason people are already giving her heel of the year is because of what she did to start the season off before the season even really started, and that was breaking. Like to really shoot your shot and say, you know what, I'm gonna piss everyone off right here, and be like, hey, by the way, I'm breaking up the wild berries just to piss all y'all off.
And just I like to think that Shannon is bigger than that moment. And obviously, that's probably moment of the year.
It's up there.
If we're still talking about it 7 months later,
to me, moment of the year is the improbable Brett Sheridan win.
Well, I mean, sure, but that's a moment of the year contender. Probably a front runner. Shannon for heel of the year. If we're gonna sweep, especially if Corruption kicks ass in the next few months, can't counter out. Winston whoops ass. If it was up to me, I'd have to flip a coin between Winston and Shannon. But and obviously Tom's always going to be, as long as Tom Dagnino is a damn manager, he will always be in the manager of the year discussion. Forever.
Two reasons he's outside of the original 5 Horsemen members, Barbarian and Demolanta. Those are 2 reasons right there. How he handled Demolanta in the Star Wars tournament just proves to you, as much as Roxy gives him shit, Dagnino is the best manager in this entire league because he knows how to coach people to winning. He knows how to coach people to winning.
And Tom's my favorite manager that I've seen in the Schmoedown probably ever.
Yeah.
Because does he know how to pick the right people? Of course.
Yeah.
But like you said, how he's been handling the Barbarian and Demolanta, Tom don't know shit about Star Wars. But the fact that you can go into a Star Wars tournament and coach the right guy to compete the way he was to kick ass, he came up short to ace. This close.
It literally came down to each of their last questions. You can't be upset about that.
And what Tom was been able to do, I wouldn't have believed it 4 months ago, if you would have asked me before the Star Wars or however long ago the Star Wars tournament was announced, like I wouldn't have believed you. That Tom Dagnino, Bobby Gucci is going to be able to coach a guy through Star Wars. But obviously
But
prove me
that's
wrong.
the thing.
I love Eating Crow.
He doesn't need to know how to. He doesn't need to know about stars. He just needs to know his player's strengths and weaknesses. It's all about talking to your player, figuring out what their biggest strength is, figuring out where the biggest weakness is, figure out what everything in between, and that's what Dagnino does. That will always and forever keep him in the Manager of the Year conversation.
But to go back to like Shannon and Korruption. I honestly think Shannon's a lock for because Christian put these polls up on the Movie Trivia Schmoedown.
Everyone voted for Shannon, basically. And everyone. It was a landslide.
I was giving my 2 cents. And if you're on the Facebook page, go ahead and check those out. Because I mean, plus it's great interaction with fans. I love hearing other people's feelings.
I'm gonna pull those up right now just so we have an idea of what those are.
So, like, to me, Shannon's a lock for Heel of the Year. Manager of the Year, jeez. So much can happen in the next 4.5 months, that it could take a hard left, and it could be Winston in the landslide. It could be Tom in the landslide. But I refuse to count Shannon out regardless of who's competing in her faction. I just think she's doing a kick-ass job managing, especially since she's so new to this. Like, Winston's been a part of the Schmoedown for a while now. Tom's obviously been in this shit since the jump. So I'm really impressed by what Shannon Barney is doing on Korruption, or with Korruption, that I refuse to counter out for really anything. I really can't.
You know, I get it completely, and I think I just got these up. So right now, Goddard is winning Rookie of the Year votes,
as he should, 100%.
For me, I feel like that's the Barbarian, but
over Ben.
It's so close. It's close, but for me, just
I'm thinking
how far. Yeah,
I'm thinking long term.
Yeah, how far the Barbarian's been able to get in the Energy tournament. Ben wasn't able to do that. They both had great singles wins.
Mm-hmm.
Heel right now. So this is Shannon has
as of this recording,
and this is about midnight Eastern time. Shannon has 368 votes for Heel of the Year in this poll, and the next closest person is Brandon Hanna with 97. So she's beating the next closest person out.
Why is Brandon Hanna the second option? Who's the third option?
Snyder at 18.
Because, okay, maybe I didn't get to talk about this last week. But Brandon Hanna's the worst.
He's like an 80s heel. He's like an 80s heel.
You know, I was scrolling one day through Twitter. I know it's totally off topic, but I was scrolling through Twitter one day and I saw someone retweet something or like something that Brandon Hanna tweeted, and I said, because I know he has he was a big Team Action stan before he was really in the league.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't know if this is the point of his character or just maybe it's just me overthinking it, but he totally is a guy that looks like he wants to dress like Ben Bateman and act like Andrew Guy.
Yep.
And I'm like, what the hell? Like,
he wants to act like Andrew Guy minus the screaming.
Yeah, minus the passion.
Yep.
Because
he wants to be the calm, cool, collected version of Guy, and it's just like, no, it doesn't work.
And the little edit that you do with the screen, it's too distracting, man. Don't do it in your promos no more.
the 7-minute promo she cut. It worked for Ken Knapsack. Didn't work for Hannah. But no.
Oh yeah, Ken's was nuts. That's why.
But the other poll that we have that revolves around the players of Schmoedown is the player who will have for Player of the Year, and this is the one that shocked me because
Player of the Year. Okay.
For Player of the Year right now, the person in the lead is Ace.
Wow.
I think that's a little bit of recency bias. Behind him, you have Chance. Chance, you can make a valid argument for because he is this 3-division player.
Uh-huh.
And following them is Dan Merle.
Yeah, it's Dan.
And then following them is Damon. I would put Damon above any of them right now.
Dan's obviously the safe pick because Dan's he rules at anything that man.
But to me, Damon coming into this tournament, coming into IG 3-0, and then he gets to play Mike, and if he beats Mike, he's 4-0 to start off his IG career while already holding a Star Wars title.
Like these performances in Inner Geekdom we've seen, or really just these winning streaks just in general. Well, it was Paul Oyama before he won the belt the first time. Mara Kanopik for Inner Geekdom the first, like when she first showed up, kicked ass.
Yeah,
was undefeated for a bit, winning the IG belt. Like it's impressive, and I think this Alex Damon run is being overlooked.
Yes, I agree
by the other aspects of, like, we talk about corruption this whole time, and we are finally bringing up that Alex Damon's undefeated in Inner Geekdom, and my man's the Star Wars champion.
About to play Mike the Killer Kalinowski,
who is arguably the best Inner Geekdom player in the league.
Yes,
depending on who you ask. So, if Alex gets by Mike, hypothetically, holy shit.
And
got real.
And here's the thing on Schmoedown backstage, you're like, if Alex beats Mike, realistically, you have to start having conversations about putting him on Rushmore, and that's without him even winning the IG title.
Woo! Who said that on backstage?
I think it was Gilmore and Roca, if I remember. Gilmore, Roca, and because they made valid points because he hasn't lost a match in over 2 years.
I'm sorry. He hasn't lost a match in over 2 years.
Yes, because he won his Star Wars title in the summer. At what's the big summer event? It's not spectacular.
Collision?
Yeah, Collision. He won his one Star Wars title at Collision, and he's held that for 2 years now. And he's defended like 4 times right now, 3 or 4 times, and then now he's gone. And then now he's gone 3-0 in IG, and playing at a high caliber at that.
I apologize, viewer, listener, because I'm now having an epiphany that Alex Damon. I've been
and see. At first you scoffed at that. At first you scoffed at it, and then when you hear it broken down for you, like, oh my god, they're right. He legitimately, if he beats Kalinowski and goes on to play for a title, no matter if he wins or loses, you can start having Rushmore. You can start having that Rushmore conversation about Damon, and deservedly so. Oh
my god, I don't want to think too far ahead, but hypothetically, even if Alex were to get past Mike, get past the winner of Barbarian Chance, go play the winner of Chandru and Kevin Smets. If he just even gets an IG title match,
that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, but think about it. And if I remember correct, it was him or Smets who won the Battle of Champions.
It was. Oh, I want to say it was Alex.
Yeah, I think it was Alex. I'm excuse me, me being me. I'm gonna look now because that's gonna bug me.
I want to say it was Alex.
Yeah,
because they were the last two.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then
that match was nuts. I remember watching that. That was crazy. And I was late to the party with that.
It was Smets. Smets by 1 point. Smets won.
Oh, geez. Okay, but weren't Alex and Smets last two?
It was Alex and Smets' last two. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm shook. I'm shaking because I didn't know that.
And Alex's accuracy rating throughout this. Think about it. He's only missed his first IG match. Yeah, he missed a few questions, but in this tournament, he hasn't really missed anything. Like, you do have to have real conversations about him being on Rushmore if he continues this run.
Lord, yeah, you do. He may not be on it, but he's damn close.
Yes,
and he's definitely because I'm really just having a brain fart because that was just you Gatorade Death all that information on me, and because you have to, you almost have to, and although I think Alex is gonna lose to Mike in the semifinal for Inner Geekdom, you still have to admire the fact that my man just started doing Inner Geekdom this year, gone this far into the tournament, still has the Star Wars belt, regardless of what you think of how many times Star Wars has competed. It's still pretty damn impressive. And just to come into a whole different division and rule.
Mm-hmm. And ruling categories like Middle Earth, Star Trek. Like, he's not just a one-trick pony relying on getting Star Wars.
Shout out to Alex Damon. That's the second guy I've been overlooking this whole time. Chance and Alex. Shout out to both of y'all.
And
y'all
crazy. Look at who he's taken out. Like, he is taken out. I know he took out Brandon Hanna, and I forget who he played in his first match. But it's not like he's played any.
Wasn't it Jacobson?
I'm talking about the first match of the tournament.
Okay.
Like, it's not like he's played any slouches. You know what I mean?
I mean, this whole tournament was like, it was because like we've said before, and we'll keep saying over and over and over again, Inner Geekdom is for the power hitters. This is where the Schmoedown to me comes to shine, and it's the most competitive. It's the hardest of any division in the movie trivia Schmoedown,
without a doubt.
And just for Alex to come from the already info-based Star Wars division, and maybe that benefited him. Yeah. Being able to do what he did for Star Wars and come in and do the same thing for Inner Geekdom. Like, if you were to tell me Alex Damon would get farther in the tournament than the chosen one, Robert Parker, I would have said, no. Like, I get it. He's already won a few matches, but no, that ain't it. And now here he is about to face off against one of the goats of Inner Geekdom and Mike Kalinowski. And I'm really stoked to see this match.
He played Jen Kemp. Jen Kemp is who he played.
Yeah. Now I'm really stoked to see what Alex does against Mike. And if Mike, there's no way Mike's underestimating him. He can't. He literally cannot afford to. So these semifinal matchups are going to be really interesting to watch. Whether like Chance Barbarian's going to rule, Kalinowski and Damon's going to rule.
I think both of these matches are going to end up coming down to the last question.
Oh yes, there's not going to be any garbage.
And we've seen this. The Barbarian just gets better and better every single match. Every single match gets better, and that's what's important to me.
And now he's about to come in. My man Chance has the momentum, dude.
Without a doubt.
After the performance of Robert Park, I would love to see like the guy that's slowly rising with knowledge and with him being so competitive and being a great competitor against the guy who's already been doing pretty solid in Inner Geekdom with Chance Ellison. So I'm especially riding the high off that Robert Parker win. I'm so curious. And now that Mike chose to get out of to be out of the number one contendership, going to the singles tournament, now we're focusing on the faction, and we got to kick ass for the faction. If that's spread just to Chance Ellison, this could be, to go full circle, this could be a pretty kick-ass few months for Korruption.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I'm so excited to see it.
And I got to ask you this. If you could only pick one of these two matches to watch this weekend, which one would it be?
Oh, Alex and Mike.
Yeah.
After everything you just told me, Alex versus Mike. Because I like faction-hungry Mike. And I want to see more Alex Damon and potentially GOAT status Alex Damon. So I want to see these two face off against each other, how Mike tackles a guy like Alex Damon, and how he competes against one of the GOATs in Inner Geekdom, if not the GOAT in Inner Geekdom.
I still got Rachel Cushing as my GOAT for Inner Geekdom.
And she ruled.
Yes.
And I miss seeing her compete. I totally understand why she bounced, but I miss seeing her compete. And especially now in this new wave of Inner Geekdom, where you got to know your stuff.
Yeah, and she's even said, she's like, I'm not sure I'd be able to play in this League of Inner Geekdom because of how
it's different than how she left it.
Mm-hmm.
And because Mike, who was around the who was obviously around when Rachel was here,
Uh-huh.
but he had to adjust to how this new league is, the
And
constant stretching, the
they
no
even showed off
cards.
between this before this
Exactly.
inner geekdom, 2 full-ass binders. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy. I'm over here making flashcards for every movie in our league, in our fan
It's
league, and
that's how you have to go about it, especially for the Schmoedown and Inner Geekdom. For the established competitors that have been in Schmoedown for a while now, Inner Geekdom's obviously it's proven to be the hardest, proven to be the most competitive, and for a guy like Mike to start and be good at what Inner Geekdom used to be, and
Mhm.
to still be good at what Inner Geekdom turned into, now that it's the shit and the most exciting Schmoedown to watch. I want to see that matchup so bad. Barbarian Chance is still going to be really, really good, and I know some people they have access to it, and that's awesome. And I hope the match kicks ass. I hope it lives up to expectation. But Alex and Mike, that's where the money's at in the semifinals. And if I had it my way, I want to see Corruption beat Corruption.
Yeah,
For real.
I'm okay with the Corruption versus Finstock Exchange or Corruption versus the Rockstars. As much as interesting as it would be to see a Corruption versus Corruption match. I don't want another and I loved the Atlanta match. Like, the Atlanta match was one of the best matches we saw all year. It is the match of the year.
So far, yes.
Yes, but it felt a little bit redundant because either way you knew who the same faction was getting points. So I want more on the line. You know what I mean?
And I don't blame you. And we've had this discussion before, off camera and on camera, that the whole faction infighting stuff can get crazy sometimes, and it can not be as fun or as dramatic
So like
when
the
there's not.
stock exchange, it works because you have 4 combustible personalities who are 4 of the greatest Schmoedown competitors of all time. For
Mhm.
a faction like Corruption, it doesn't work because you're not seeing these 2 players who are teammates go head to head as much as you see someone like Roka versus Ben go head to head sometimes, even in just debates. Like, and that's why, like, okay, I was more fine with it with Finstock Exchange because you knew it worked for a potential storyline.
Totally.
Does anyone really believe that Corruption would break up after this year? Like, realistically, I think it's going to take a hell of a lot for a team like Corruption to break up.
Yeah, there's definitely some hardcore locks on Corruption side, and regardless of how the year ends, like you said, but it is more entertaining to watch those loud and massive strong personalities butt heads with each other. But at the same time, and I was complaining about it then, I complain about it now. Like, to me, like, realistically, especially as a wrestling fan, it doesn't make any sense to me. I like if the New Day, like when Kofi Kingston won the WWE Championship when he was with the New Day, or when he's still with the New Day, but Big E wasn't like, oh man, I want that belt. Like, or Xavier Woods wasn't like that either. And maybe that's just how my brain is, and it's my own fault, and I put that own mentality in my head. But when I see Dan Murrow being like, I want the singles belt, or John Rourke being like, I want the singles belt in this case, it's like, nah, like, come, like, I get it.
Yeah,
Belts are belts, but I'm with the peeps like Corruption. Points are points,
yeah,
and this whole point thing became it's the most. If it's not the most important thing, it's damn near top 2 of, especially with this season, how the season will progress, especially with Christian announcing the points changes for
yeah.
next season.
And
So it means something.
I know he had to do like this Facebook Live mini town hall about that because people are like, "Oh, you can't change the point system." He didn't. Like, literally, he just said for the tournaments, ones are going to be worth more because it's a tournament.
Yeah,
It's what's you got to make. It's considering we lost 2 months of Schmoedown. Basically, you got to try to make up for some of those points. And what better way to make up for some of those points than putting the pressure on people and making these tournament matches worth more?
exactly. And I get like people don't like change. I like what I saw. Made things more interesting. There are still other things that need to be changed. I mean, I will always, like I said, always complain about
I mean,
the faction thing.
one of our first episodes is when we talked about how free agency is supposed to work this year. It's still something that feels iffy to me. I wish Christian would give more concrete details on it, because
And I guarantee he will.
to say managers can protect for their players, but they're going to have to choose what for, but then that the player has to agree to stay with it, it's one or the other. So,
but we'll see how the rest of the year pans out. It's like this whole thing, COVID screwed a lot of things up.
yes.
So you can't really fault Christian for wanting to just tweak some things
Right
to
here.
make things more exciting. And I know there'll be change to the draft. That will change. Something will change about the draft and free agency and how that will be tackled.
Well, I mean, basically, you're going to end up with those 30 some odd protected players, and to be realistic, there might be players that are protected that aren't players we expected. Like somebody could convince Sabrina Ramirez to sign with them in free agency, and then that'd be a shock because somebody sees the potential in her, and then maybe someone like an ace somehow ends up back in the draft and not protected. It's just one of those things.
If that's the case, then awesome. But I don't want the Schmoedown to depend on that. Depend on the shock. Because there are some obvious locks. Or to me, on like surface level, what's going to happen with the Finstock exchange? That's something I would.
That's the one that's not a lock because in my eyes, I'm like, you have Damon to the. He has to try to decide if he wants to keep Damon to the Barbarian, Roca, Dan,
Merle,
Ben,
and Riley.
Like that. That's 6 players, and he only has 4 spots.
So I would love to see how that pans out. But at the same time, it's one faction. I want to see how everybody else is going to approach this. I don't want this to be super weighed in one faction's favor, like how the draft was this past year. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Moral of the story: Korruption's kicking ass. A lot of things ride on the next couple matches in their geekdom,
and the singles tournament.
And the singles tournament starts up in a couple weeks. It's an exciting time for Schmoedown. Really exciting. 100%. I can't wait to see how it goes out.
I'm going to say this again. Make sure you guys check out our fan league. Started with just the crew at Who Are They Real Entertainment. We got 3 of the 10 matches up. Unfortunately, we lost matches 3 and 4 to Chris's chagrin.
It was my coming out match, bro. I'm not hurt.
hey, how do you feel about the fact that your number 1 contenders match now has a wrench thrown in it? Because I'm guessing, did Toby talk to you about that?
I know nothing about.
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell you off camera. But thank you guys for watching. Check out our spin for our really trivia showdown fan league with the Watt Real Entertainment crew. And signing off, I'm Matt.
And I'm the personality, Chris Anthony Lopez.
And remember, folks, spin from the real, not the peg. Have a good night.